After the vaccines got deployed, the world took a breath of relief. But there are a lot of things to be done, and now even more. The world might have stopped working, but the needs won't. And if the days have become normal, there are still positive cases around the world posing a great threat. Factories are worried about their product outcome, and the government is worried about the effects it would have on the economy and the public. The beginning of the year saw a rise in cases as Omicron bullied the streets. The increase in prices and the reduction in labor have affected the supply of various essential items that could slow the growth rate and make the recovery process take longer than it should. This could mean a lot of things, and inflation and taxes just barely scratch the surface. Anyway, let's take a look at today's video and see what issues producers and consumers might face as the pandemic diminishes the productivity of various companies worldwide. But before we dive into the video, if you like content like this and would like to stay up to date with current affairs, then please consider subscribing, as this would reward our efforts and motivate us to keep going. Now let's begin. This is 5 products expected to be in tight supply. Food products. There's no doubt that this would be on top of the list, as it is one of our basic needs. Shops might not have been empty, but the reserves and factories are seeing a decline in the production rate. Omicron is the new COVID variant and has been spreading fast, and there has been an increase in the number of absentees in the factories, which would lead to less production rates. Curfews and lockdowns have been put in place, which is causing a halt to food production, and the food output is decreasing while demand remains the same. Even though the factories are functional now, there has been an increased number of workers who were tested positive, and home quarantine, which has lessened the product output. As resources get depleted, the tax is increased, which is increasing the cost of production as well. This has turned out to be a big issue, and it might get worse in the coming months. The producers pointed out that there have been shortages in fertilizers and pesticides, which would lead to smaller yields, further reducing the food output. There has been an increase in the prices of natural gases in Europe, and restrictions on exports from China and Russia are expected to keep the fertilizers and pesticides in high demand, and it could go beyond 2023. During testimony on food supply and chain issues, John Swalls, the executive officer at the Southern Valley Fruit and Vegetable Executive Officer, said, "It's going to get worse. It appears the fewer protection products we have, the fewer yields we're going to have." Alex Painter pointed out that the price for plastic raisins have increased by 50% last year. Manufacturers have begun to stockpile and reserve more products, which will help in easing the prices and supply constraints in 2022. But the scarcity will make the raisins more expensive due to high demand, and the increase in import taxes will decide the volatility of the market. On February 17, 2021, an ice storm struck Texas. This unfortunate event, along with 2 hurricanes along the U.S. Gulf Coast, severely damaged the supply chain, causing factory outages, affecting the manufacturing process that took months to recover. Plastic raisins, the raw material, is used in everything from packaging to paint, and it was reported to be in short supply for 10 months. This heavily impacted the industry and might see a rise in the prices as well. A lot of construction projects are on a standstill due to the lack of building materials. These materials are expensive to produce, and a lack of materials is urging the contractors to look for alternative materials. There have been an increase in construction prices, a spike of 22.3%. Rising inflation and materials shortages have demotivated the building sentiments, especially home building. Chuck Folk, the chairman of NAHB, in a press release said that the price and availability of building materials and supply chain in general remains the most pressing, immediate challenge for builders as they seek to add housing supply. Builders have faced long lead times for simple construction projects like wallboard or garage doors. Shortages come as businesses plan new distribution centers, which require a lot of material, and other projects that might need massive expenditure, and materials which put a void in the supply chain. Construction projects demand labor, and there are labor constraints with Omicron doing its thing. Builders and contractors have a hard time managing the whole thing. Metaverse is a 3D virtual world focusing on connection. Well, it might be a new concept, but it has been secretly invading lives as people get quarantined. You see, this virtual world has been here for a long time. An increase in demand for these products and put huge pressure on the manufacturing of semiconductors. We can already see the demand for computer chips hitting the roof and is expected to remain the same throughout the year. These chips are used in almost everything from automobiles to household appliances. The recent shift from 4G to 5G is adding to the strain on the producers. Semiconductor shortages have caused over a revenue miss of $500 billion all over the world in the past 2 years, as reported on Deloitte. Producers of semiconductors have been taking measures to speed up the process and increase the production rate, and capital expenditure projects that were announced before the pandemic would be ramped up. But Hock Tan, the CEO of Broadcom Inc., said in a December earnings call that the semiconductors are booked through 22 and even beyond 22 into 23. And still that won't be enough to meet the demand this year. The limited supply of aluminum has created problems for the construction industry and the beverage makers, as they have very little access to aluminum. October saw a rise in the prices of natural gases in Europe, and this led the producers to minimizing the production, which led to worsening the global situation. This was a very bad situation, as said in the letter sent to the European Union by European Aluminum. The letter said, Europe has lost more than 650,000 tons of its annual production capacity since the dramatic rise in energy prices in October 2021. Aluminum can producers have invested in new small projects to increase the production capacity in the United States. In September, Ball Corporation announced that they would build a $290 million package plant in Nevada, but the plant won't be ready and functional all time soon. The company expects the demand to continue and put a huge strain on the supply in the short term. China reduced the production of aluminum and other energy-consuming metals last year as a measure to lessen carbon emissions. This has led to a shorter supply of aluminum, 1.2 million tons below the bank's expectation. Rodney Sachs, the co-CEO of Monster Beverages, told the analysts that they were not able to fulfill the demands in the third quarter because of shortages of aluminum cans and other supply challenges. It was inevitable how lockdown would affect productivity on a global scale. The demand would grow, if not remain the same, as more people exhaust the resources while the production is at a stop. With scarcity in natural resources, the production rate will lower, damaging the economic aura, and it will project a rise in inflation. We can already see how this is unfolding as countries try to cope with the shortage of essential products. This will curb the production rate, and they would increase the value of the commodity. The world is hit by a series of unfortunate events like a domino effect and side effect of the pandemic. The world can get through this, but it's going to take time, and until they do, we should try to preserve these commodities and aid each other. Everyone is tired of the pandemic, the masks, the restrictions, which mean every individual should try to make a difference by preserving these resources. This pandemic has taught us a lot about the value of life and preserving it. Comment below how many shops and restaurants do you see closed as you walk around your locality. Take care, stay safe, wear a mask, and stay healthy. Thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time.